Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Chat and Games, your weekly gaming show. I'm your host for the evening, afternoon, morning, whenever it is that you're listening to this, Melvin Rodriguez. And I'm joined by the one and only sexy voice in the business, Mr. Matthew Howard.
Europe.
Yerp. That's what we like to say over here, Matt. So we got a banger show for you today, as we always do every week. We are focusing more on questions and answers, bring out the conversation out of us. Most of the questions that we discuss in this show are based on recent occurrences within the gaming industry. But if you want to discuss your own question on the show, remember you can do so by email us at itsallfunngamestv@gmail.com or by just joining the Discord and joining us on the Chat and Games Discord group channel so we can also discuss the questions that we want to talk about next episode. But Matt, ever since we last spoke, there were a few I want to say a few events that happened in between. So why don't we start talking to you about them? The first one, Matt, is that Epic bought, I would say, what was one of my favorite games of last year, Fall Guys.
Well, they bought the studio more
Yeah,
specifically.
but let's be honest, they bought the game itself. No, just kidding. Yeah, the studio Motive has been bought by Epic, acquired by Epic, and that brought about a few questions in my mind as to what does this mean for the future of Fall Guys, but more overall and in a broader spectrum. What are your thoughts on some of the game studio acquisition that has happened? Do you think it's beneficial for the studio? Do you think it's actually a detriment for it? What? Give me your first thing that comes to mind. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I hate to paint in broad strokes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to start by saying I think it's a case by case again because I think the main thing for me that will determine my sort of initial reaction is my opinion of the publisher or the bigger company in this question or in question. The one doing the buying. So, like, for example, we had the Next Level Games acquisition a little while ago where Nintendo bought them, and I was like, oh, cool. Uh, on the other hand, you have this one where it's Epic, and it's less less enthusiastic immediate reaction because Epic has sort of been taking a more aggressive approach as far as buying stuff out. They've been buying a lot of exclusives for their platform and stuff along those lines. And this kind of seems like it almost seems like they're starting to become like the Disney of the video game industry, just buying out other companies and other studios and exclusivity rights to games and stuff. And it, I never really like to see one single company having kind of so much power in a single space. So that puts me a bit on edge as far as what it'll do to the company itself. I think that'll really depend on how they handle it. Even like Epic, I wouldn't say is as bad as EA, which kind of has a reputation of buying out studios and driving them into the ground. But I think Fall Guys is probably successful enough at the moment that I feel like they'd probably be a bit more hands off
Mm-hmm.
unless they really think that they could be getting more out of that franchise than they currently are. If that's the case, I could see them maybe enforcing their will a bit harder on the studio and trying to push them to push the game in a certain direction or make games of a certain type, which is definitely a more EA thing again. But yeah, I guess those are my simple thoughts. Not so simple,
Okay.
but
It's
what
interesting.
do you have to say on the topic?
It's interesting that you brought up Epic and the comparison with Disney. Epic is a company that not only has, well, one of the most popular games ever, Fortnite, in
Yeah,
their ecosystem, but they also have a platform associated with them. So they are kind of
yeah,
they're all over the place. So they're obviously their platform, the Epic Launcher, completely, and I think that's the name of the platform themselves, is competing with
The
Steam.
Epic Game Store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Epic Game Store. Yes, thank you. Which is competing with Steam for exclusivity rights to certain titles, and everybody has been aware that they obviously try to get some exclusivity on their platform so that more people get and buy their download their store, so that they can have more visibility. Some people know that there is another option to than just Steam. That being said, they block Steam with their exclusivity rights, so a lot of people have many different not misconception but bad feeling against.
Yeah, because and we kind of talked about this last time how exclusivity you see the purpose from the point of the platform holders, but it's kind of purely an anti-consumer practice.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't benefit the
And
consumer.
that's why a lot of people have reservations about this method.
Yeah, at the very least, on this way, they are all targeting the same hardware platform. They're PCs, so you can get one or the other. But you can do in this case,
or both.
Yeah, you can get the store on Steam, the Steam store or the Epic Game Store on your own computer. It doesn't matter. It's not like you need to buy a separate piece of hardware to actually get and play this game. And both stores are free to get. It's not that you have to pay a subscription just to be in part of that store.
Yeah, so it mainly comes down to people like to have their libraries all in one place. Some people feel that the Steam store is better built out at the moment, just more feature rich, better policies for refunds and whatnot.
But obviously, Steam has been around for way longer than the Epic Game Store has.
Exactly.
And also, the other aspect that the Steam has is also the sheer amount of games that come out on that platform, even on a daily basis, that things kind of get shopped onto the side. Not the most, but obviously, you will get your own views of your games depending on what sort of marketing you do. If it's Fall Guys, you're not solely relying on the store to promote your game. Obviously, that helps. But there are other ways that they are actually using their marketing budget to make sure that they put these games on how many eyes as possible. But at the same time, when you are a smaller studio and you have less spending capacity, that can be detrimental. So I can definitely see when some studios want to go through Epic on that. It's interesting that we kind of
I can't really. Sorry, I was just going to say I can't blame any like indie studio that wants to take the Epic money, because obviously that's a very big deal for them.
Yeah, but is that we kind of shifted the conversation to Epic versus Steam right here. But what I wanted to say, okay, you have Epic, the store. You also they have the Unreal Engine, which is one of the main core engines out there used to develop games, by especially what some people consider AAA quality games are using more of that, and then they consider Unity to be the more indie development engine, or that's the general conception of it. That doesn't necessarily steer true for either one of them. But then you also have them pushing big scale or games that they know that they can scale. Obviously, with Fortnite, they are doing a fantastic job on keeping people interested in the game with all their licensing deals, having all the skins, all the events. Even their in-game events are matched by no other one that I have seen. They have concerts in them. They have movie watching in the game itself. So they know how to try. They know how to keep their audience engaged on their live content. Whether or not that's good for the people working in the game themselves, that is hard to say. Because obviously to put up that amount of content out every single month takes a lot of time and effort. But obviously they have the money, they have the people, they have the people. But who knows? There's only so many people that you can throw at a problem before it becomes redundant. There's just redundancy at that point, and it's not gonna go faster by just throwing more people at it. So having those, Epic being a jack of all trades essentially, means that what got me interested is like why they're so interested in motive, and whether it is Fall Guys, the IP itself, or the ability of the studio to create this sort of live games where they can add more to them as they go along. Maybe they can use their force, because for me in particularly, Fall Guys was one of the games that I played quite a bit when it came out. It was so much fun. I streamed the game a lot for a long time. I thought it was one of the games that had a lot of potential in it, because it was one of those games where you can actually vary the gameplay quite a bit, since they're all mini games. It's essentially, it wasn't
Hmm.
tied to a particular, for example, Fortnite, it can add a bunch of stuff associated with it and other modes, but at the core is still the shooter building game. So
Yeah.
but Fall Guys, even though you can kind of associate it with the physics platforming, there's so many different mini games that they can add to it, that it felt like it could be it had the potential to be something really special in the long term. The problem that I saw for me as a player was that when I came in, I played the same maps, the same launch maps over and over again. Obviously, it got repetitive and I kind of got bored of it. Now, excited for season 2 for new changes. I was a bit disappointed as a player to only find out that we only got the 4 maps, one of which I didn't even enjoy that much. So it kept me from staying with the game longer term. And obviously, it's the size of the team, and developing these sort of games and mini games takes a long time, effort, and I basically don't blame them for not doing that sort of stuff. It's just the amount of sheer effort that it takes. But at the same time, to keep your audience engaged, you kind of need the constant updates to make sure that
Yeah.
people are actually engaged with your platform.
With a more live game like this. So I guess kind of the question is did they buy them out because they looked at them and said, yeah, that's a studio that's doing pretty well for themselves. We want a piece of that
Mm-hmm.
pie. And basically they're going to let them keep doing as is because they've proven they can be successful.
Yeah.
Or did they look at that and go, wow, we could be doing a lot more with that if we had it
Yeah.
with all our money? Um, in which case, yeah, maybe they could be looking to turn it into kind of a second Fortnite, and it's too early to say whether
Yeah.
they're thinking one way or the other.
It is. One of the other topics that we wanted kind of to discuss with this was what makes an acquisition beneficial versus detrimental. One of the things that comes to mind for me is the ability of whether this developer is going to be hands off, whether it's like as a purely monetary decision, meaning I want us to be the sole publisher of this game and being able to
Yep.
use them, or whether it is a way of helping them. It's like, okay, you guys don't, you have the creative process nailed down. You obviously know what you're doing. You're just lacking the manpower and the resources to fully be able to keep this game engaging for the audience that you have. So here's the help that you have. You are the ones who are going to lead them and guide them. Just let us know what else you need, but you figure it out. That could be also very beneficial, especially for smaller
Yeah.
teams that don't have the money or the resources to actually, again, keep building this live game. On the other hand, though, what I think actually takes away from this is when developers take control over the game and try to take a piece of the pie and actually embed some form of extra of different ways to extract money from the user, or different ways to essentially take away from the creative and what made the game special to begin with. What about you, Matt? What do you think?
Right. Yeah. Basically, I'm in agreement. It like I said at the start, it can kind of go either way. I guess my preference is if I think that the studio is doing well enough on its own, I would prefer that the buyer be a little more hands off and kind of just be the source of resources as well as, yeah, they get their reward if the studio does well. So that seems like a fine enough partnership to me. The time when it becomes a problem is when the publisher starts to decide, oh, we know better than this
Mm-hmm.
studio that clearly seem to have things under like control,
Yeah.
and they start basically enforcing their will and trying to push them in a certain direction. EA does that a lot, and that's why I'm not a fan of them buying out other stuff. Not to rag exclusively on EA. They're just the only example I can think of off the top of my head. So, yeah.
No, it makes sense. Obviously, you want it to be a collaborative process and not now it's that we are going to dictate how this ship is going to be run. Now you just got to listen to us because we own you. And that just seems that just not only does it take away from the passion because a lot of people will potentially say, you know what, this is not what I signed up for, so I'm heading out, and you lose that creative team and that. But that's also when some of those developers kind of go and on their own and create their own studios again, and kind of it's almost like a vicious cycle. It will be very interesting to look at the past and see of a story whether like okay we got together, we formed this company, obviously got too big, the publisher decided that we're going to be doing this work, and then we got out of it, started our own studio again, and again we got bought by another publisher and the thing repeated all over again. I have seen I can't think of one on the top of my head, but I can definitely see that happening. But I also seen where publishers have been more of again a hands-off approach and kind of just giving them a little bit of guidelines as to what could work based on the publisher's own experience, which can be very valuable. I'm thinking that with Microsoft and the Bethesda situation, I think Microsoft saw Bethesda is like, okay, you guys know what you're doing. This is obviously a bigger purchase, like one of the biggest purchases in gaming history. Yeah. But I honestly think it's like, and even Phil Spencer kind of mentioned it, that they're probably just going to be hands off. Bethesda, you run the way that you have done it, and we're just going to be more collaborative. And this is more for the benefit of putting these titles up on the Xbox ecosystem.
Right.
Any more thoughts on being companies being bought by other or being acquired by bigger publishers or bigger companies?
I guess when you were talking about the vicious cycle, it kind of just made me think. I know in other industries, there's people who explicitly like make companies with the purpose of selling them and then just like starting over again, starting a new company, eventually hoping to sell that off. And like, that's just their entire plan. So I wonder if that's true in the gaming space for anyone in particular.
Yeah, I can't think of
I don't know of any offhand, but
it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me if there were people out there who were specifically going for that.
Yeah, especially nowadays where there's so many different games of different scales that obviously there may be a business model for even smaller scale games that potentially do that.
Right.
All right. So moving on to another set of things that happened. So after we recorded our podcast for last week, we knew that the state of play was coming. What we didn't know is that there was going to be a Pokemon present as well. And we decided to do our reactions. Well, I did my reactions. Matt was busy at the time. So player 2 was offline during those reactions.
Well, I explicitly told you, hey, maybe this is worth doing a reaction to after I saw it.
You didn't tell me why. Yeah. But as soon as you told me that, I was like, okay, this Pokemon Present must have something special. And we're specifically talking about the Pokemon Present, not the state of play. We knew it was going to happen. So we decided we were going to do the reactions anyway. And this brought another story that came out this week. Again, I don't think it was surprising to anybody that E3 was canceled this year for like physical presentations. I don't know all the stories for this particular every story that we're kind of discussing will be in the show notes or in the description of the video if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, which you can find by searching Chat and Games. Little plug there. But what are your thoughts on presentations and the evolution of presentations? Do you think we're gonna be seeing a lot more of direct, like Nintendo Direct style presentations, and or are we still gonna see the physical release of that's not about have physical presentations in the future,
like press conferences?
Yes,
basically.
Exactly.
I think, honest to God, the only thing I miss about press conferences are like the parts where things go wrong and it's funny.
The light.
I think as a like presentation method, the scripted online presentations are just infinitely better
Mhm.
because the press conference is only going to really be anything more to the people who are specifically there, which is such a small set of individuals relative to, especially nowadays, relative to the audience you're attempting to reach. And just, yeah, there's a lot more wasted time, a lot more potential floundering or things moving slow when they can't just like edit together a snappy series of trailers.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the only fun I really got out of the press conferences for like the last time we had an E3
Mhm.
that wouldn't have been just as easily accomplished by an online presentation was the moments where things go less than great for the
You
presenters.
don't miss when they brought down the car for Forza onto the screen for no reason as to
Oh, or when Ubisoft does its Just
oh the
Dance
Just Dance. You gotta love it though.
thing of the year.
Or when they bring their FIFA talk and they bring like a very well known FIFA player to not well soccer player to a space that may not even know about, and they just seem out of place and it
Yeah.
just seems weird and awkward because
Yeah, when they just have a celebrity for no
yeah.
reason. I mean, to be fair, it's not as if the attempts at like relevancy or humor that fall flat don't still
Mhm.
happen, like we saw in that last Nintendo Direct with the dodgeball thing
Yeah,
that
that was weird though.
was pretty much universally panned as far as I can
Yeah,
tell.
I don't think anybody thought that it was a good way to present it, but at the same time, they could also have been playing mind games with us because it is a presentation that got a lot of attention and people talking about how bad it was. Again, sometimes there's no such thing as good or bad publicity. It's just publicity there, you know.
That's fair, yeah.
And I'm also curious because that game showed up at this state of play with a little bit more of a developer talking about the features of the game and the game being played in the meantime, but showing gameplay. And I thought that was like 1,000 times better. But that one wasn't uh, as well talked about.
No, people didn't weren't talking about it as much
Mm-hmm.
because it was not as notable. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
fair. Sometimes if you want to be recognized, you just and you don't think you can make like a really good
Mm-hmm.
splash. Sometimes it's better to make all. I mean, in this case, I don't think that's what they were
No.
going for. Just the amount of effort that was put into this trailer. Um, yeah, clearly they thought they had something, but it doesn't seem like they did.
Yeah. I think the whether or not that's gonna get people to actually buy their game, it's gonna show later on. Like people are gonna know about it. I don't know if people are gonna buy it now just because they know about it. So we'll see. We'll see how that pans out. But in any case, yes. When you have a presentation that you are able to edit beforehand and put together, sometimes even more. First of all, is sometimes it's more entertaining because you can cut out the pieces that people don't want to even hear about and all the transitional stuff. Obviously sometimes that doesn't happen. They still leave some weird like talk a lot of people talking that which is it doesn't pan well when you're trying to do something for gamers specifically. Maybe when it is to appeal to um, other publishers as a business reason that may help, but not to other gamers. Now,
Yeah. Although you do also have cases where, sorry to
no, go ahead.
interrupt, but you have cases where there's a lot of talking, but they're able to kind of go into specifics that they wouldn't normally. Like I always think back to that the first big reveal of the Smash Bros. Ultimate, where they have a segment where Sakurai is literally just going through like character by character and talking about these small changes.
Yes.
And it's like, this is the kind of thing that would never fly in a press
No,
conference.
but it
But I'm totally here for it.
but it was a video made for that specifically. So
Yeah, well, it was their E3 video, but I guess they like basically half the entire presentation was Smash, and they just decided to go all in on the Smash stuff. So I guess if you didn't care about Smash, they figured you would have tuned out by that point.
yeah,
So
fair enough. Well, now that brings up another kind of question about this sort of presentations. Do you think there is space to have smaller smaller presentations of games that we already know but show a little bit more about. That doesn't necessarily have that huge reveal that comes from usually E3 presentations where they like leave their and there's one more thing and they announce a huge game that everybody was waiting for. Or do you think it's better to kind of save up those moments, put them all together in one presentation, like one or two a year, but have something that really splashes, like here's all the games that we've been talking about, maybe a few curveballs here and there just to show you things, and then bam, here is your Elder Scrolls 6, or bam, here is your Smash Mario Kart 9, which by the way I was waiting for but we didn't get. What are your thoughts? Is it better to have them spread out throughout the year even though they don't make that big of a splash, or is it better to save them up?
Personally, I'm not too bothered one way or the other. Like, we're getting all the same announcements regardless. If I had to choose, though, I think I prefer kind of having everything bunched together. It's fun to get like kind of a constant stream of reveals and stuff,
Yeah.
as opposed to last year Nintendo when they would just set out a tweet when they had a new game coming or something.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, it's still cool, but it's less exciting. So yeah, personally, I prefer the kind of larger presentations method. But if like they all decided to go the other route and just have individual announcements for things, I wouldn't be too bothered by that.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. The reason that I brought this up is also because in the state of play, there wasn't necessarily any huge announcements out of it. It was mostly just talking about the games that we already seen. We got a few new ones here and there, like that Kung Fu game that looked pretty cool, honestly. But again, because every single time that the company announced we're gonna do a presentation about our coming games or whatever, they just blow their expectations out of proportion and say we are gonna get footage for the next God of War, or look, they're gonna announce the next Uncharted or something. It's like, okay, chill for a second. Like they still have a lot of games that are coming out in the recent future, and it was cool to see them all. I personally enjoyed that. But I know that there was a lot of talk about whether or not the state of play actually made an impact, and it was just mostly a lot of people were, it's like, no, this was a waste of time, it kind of sucked. And that obviously just because they didn't get that big AAA game. Also, at the same time, we didn't see Ratchet and Clank and Horizon Zero Dawn, which are some of the big titles coming out this year, which I sort of hope to see a little bit
Yeah.
more of. So I can kind of see that side of the argument. But I did enjoy what I saw. It just wasn't something like, making a reactions video. There wasn't like, yes, let's go, like break everything, and those YouTube moments that you will see later on by other
Yeah.
YouTubers as well.
I did hear a take on this I thought was interesting, even if I don't know if I completely agree, but basically saying something along the lines of like, it's weird that people complain about these things. It's like people, when you really think about it, it's like people are complaining that they didn't get the advertisements they wanted.
Yes.
And that's a bit of a weird way to think about it. And I mean, it is a bit different. Like looking for news on a particular game, I don't think is quite the same. But in a way, I do think that is true. And it's like knowing that the game is coming should be enough in most cases. Like, yeah, it's nice when we do see stuff, but it's not like the game is going to cease to exist because we didn't see. Well, in most cases, okay. It's not like the game is going to cease to exist just because we didn't see it this time.
But a lot of times there's a lot of like silent killings or silent chop-offs, which is like, okay, we haven't seen the game.
Yeah.
They've obviously been in development hell. This is just not gonna pan out, so we're not gonna. I'm thinking of like Dead Island, for example. I remember that big trailer where the guy was jogging along the beach and people were transformed, and he was like transforming into a zombie in the meantime, and everybody's like, oh, the new Dead Island. And obviously we didn't get the light of day. That has been shifted from studio to studio, and we still haven't seen it.
Right.
So,
but I think as far as stuff like Breath of the Wild 2 or God of War or Horizon 2, I'm not worried about any of those games getting sunk. not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when we see them.
It's also a matter of like hyping it up. Like people want excitement. So when they see, oh, Breath of the Wild, and when they see a release date associated with it, let's say, oh, Breath of the Wild, and all of a sudden, boom, holiday 2021, everyone's like, yeah, and you have something to look forward to towards the end of the year, and then it gets delayed for another year, and you're kind of sad. But at the same time, people just like to see more of what they're already excited about. For example, Elden Ring is another thing that people really wanted to get more news on because it's a game that was announced
or
3 years ago, and we still haven't seen much of it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not 2 years, 3 years ago, sorry. So more like...
It is cases like that as well where we don't really know anything about the game, and that's part of the reason why people want to see it. Is it's like, I want to be able to be excited about this, but it's hard when we know so little. So
Exactly. Which, by the way, another piece of news that happened this week is the Elden Ring, a little bit of a, not necessarily gameplay, but what seemed to be a marketing trailer kind of leaked. But the game was very choppy, and it was obviously, for whatever reason, every time that somebody leaks something, it has the recommended settings for your phone. It has to be a Nokia from 1995 that you put up on the screen, and you start taking screenshots that look blurry as heck. And it also has to be on a weird angle with a shaky camera. Those are the requirements if you're leaking content, by the way.
Okay.
Because it's just the footage just looks ridiculous. It doesn't really show.
Or it's just text. Much. There's a lot of text leaks that end up being accurate, but no one believes them at the time because anyone can make a text leak.
Yeah, anybody can make a text leak, and everybody's getting good at Photoshop, so you can post an image and they say, is it real? Is it not? We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about that excitement, how you control that, and making sure that for a company's perspective, it must be related to making sure that people are still anticipating your game. You feed them enough news to keep them excited, but not enough so that they are upset when changes are coming. And at the same time, making sure that you can actually deliver and have that huge impact when the game actually comes out. As a gamer, it's also interesting to think about. We always want the new and shiny thing. We always want to see what's next for our favorite franchise or whatever piece of tech or whatever piece of game is going to come out that is going to excite us next. But there's so many games out there, man, that are great, but you still just haven't had a chance to play them. If you really look at anybody's backlog, there's no way that you can achieve playing all those games. And there's a lot of games waiting for you to try. One of the ones that I'm going right now through on stream is Bloodborne, for example. Like I could get Elden Ring, yes, that's nice, but there's also Bloodborne out there. There's still Dark Souls that I still need to play. So it's good to keep in mind that you should not be starving for games. There's still a lot of great games, a great backlog of games that you can actually get. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts? Let me see if I had anything on my notes here. Yeah, okay, no, nothing on my notes. So let's move on to the last topic of conversation for the day, which is talking about anniversaries. We're talking about Pokemon Presents, and obviously this year there's a few different anniversaries happening. I'm just thinking. Obviously, we have Zelda, big franchise from Nintendo, right there, having a big anniversary and people hoping to see more and a celebration on it, essentially. Last year we got Mario.
Yeah.
Because of obviously the continuity there. And also this year we also got Pokemon as another franchise. And did you know that it was also the 25th, I gotta double check, 25th or 15th anniversary for Tomb Raider? I think it's 25th.
Yeah. Metroid and Donkey Kong have five anniversaries as well.
So it's always like
this year. So.
For some reason, we celebrate anniversaries intervals of 5. So obviously, when you hit a 5, 35, 10, 20, 25, you want at least some acknowledgement of to like, oh, it occurred, it is awesome. Here is something to celebrate. Here we're gonna give you this amazing title in the franchise, for example. That's what people want.
Yeah.
But is it something that companies should actually do? Do you think people should celebrate, should games franchise celebrate their anniversaries in some way that is showcased to the public?
I think so. I think I don't think you necessarily have to release a game or something like that. But I do think it's nice when companies do put out a kind of an acknowledgement or like a cool like re-release or a cute little downloadable game, like kind of like what they did for Mario, as long as they don't then go, oh, by the way, in 6 months it's all gone. That that part's less good. But yeah, overall I think I'm not gonna like hold the company
accountable or
in a
expectation.
negative light if they don't do anything too special for an anniversary, because it is kind of just another year, really. It is a bit arbitrary what we decide are the important anniversary dates, but yeah, as far as just like celebrating games, I do think games and like long running franchise are something worth celebrating in a lot of cases. I think it matters to the fans of those franchises. So yeah, I do like it when companies take the initiative.
I personally like it as well when the companies take the initiative. But what I don't like is when us gamers have the expectation that something huge has to happen. Like, so they need to
Yeah,
give us, as a celebration for the 35th anniversary, give us the latest and greatest Mario game, or give us the latest and greatest Zelda game. Obviously, we want that. I'm not gonna. If you're gonna
yeah,
give it to me, I'm not gonna be mad about it. But then
yeah, exactly.
it sets yourself up for a potential downfall because you are just making ideas up in your head that something's gonna happen when the company has not even said that or hinted that anything like that is going to happen. So that's when things kind of fall off for me. But I do like, for example, the Pokemon Presents did a bit of the two. At the beginning, it was just going through its history. It was a video of like, okay, how did Pokemon start? What kind of things have been released around the year, over the year, sorry, that kind of showcase what Pokemon is able to do and has been doing in the past. And I think that's a good way to show and celebrate that part. It's like it brought me nostalgia. For example, Pokemon is one of the franchises that I've been involved in for quite a while, taking breaks here and there. Of course, it's not. I'm not gonna say that I'm the greatest Pokemon fan out there because I'm not. Uh, but it's obviously a franchise that is very special to me. And I have played the card games. I have watched the anime, the original ones, by the way. Ash needs to grow up at some point and be replaced, by the way. The games, obviously, that's the one that I've been focused on. Those are the ones that I've been playing the most. But it was awesome to see that kind of evolution, for lack of a better word, on the Pokemon franchise. And at the same time, it pans what they wanted. They got the three announcements for Pokemon games that for me, all three are super exciting. Maybe
Really, all
I think all
three.
three, yeah. Even
Okay.
the remake, just because of the art style, the way it was made. I know people were complaining about it. To me, that's just awesome the way it looked. It reminded me of Link's Awakening, the remake.
Yeah, yeah. I don't dislike the look.
Mhm.
In my case, the kind of concerning part was they didn't really show anything new,
Well,
and it
it
does
is a
kind of seem
remake.
like it might just be yeah, but um I don't know, the kind of like just tile for tile remakes, I think
Mhm.
can be a bit like disappointing. It's like you have an opportunity to sort of reimagine it or potentially fix some of the issues with the original game. And like I love Diamond and Pearl, but I do think there are things that could be touched up about them. And like the other thing that is sort of unfortunate is they always seem to ignore the third entries when they do these. Like we didn't get the Emerald Battle Frontier in the Ruby Sapphire remakes,
Yeah,
and I'm worried we're not going to get any of the cool stuff that
that
Platinum
matters. Yeah.
added in the Diamond Pearl remakes. Like they kind of redid a lot of the routes in Platinum to make them more visually distinct and interesting, and the region as a whole sort of had this vibe of being cold, like just a colder area in
Mhm.
general. So even on the early routes, there was like snow and stuff, and I thought that gave it kind of a nice um, distinction from kind of every other Pokemon region.
That's fair.
So yeah, it is a shame that it doesn't seem like a particularly ambitious remake. Even like art style wise, that part doesn't really bother me. It's more the, and I mean, this could change, but from what they showed so far, and from the fact that it's being outsourced as well, just kind of makes it
Hmm.
almost seem like I sort of wonder if the Arceus legend thing was sort of what the original remake turned into. Like they kind of got too off the rails, and then they just went like, oh, we should probably just make a normal remake as well. So they just kind of shunted it off to another developer, just almost out of obligation. They felt like they had to put it out there.
I mean, that's fair. I guess.
And I mean, I could be wrong. We'll
Mhm.
see more of the game, and we'll be able to make a better judgment call at that point.
Oh yeah,
But
for sure. I,
yeah,
personally, I was excited about all three. Well, more some than others. Pokemon Snap, we already knew about. We already know that it's coming. So just seeing a little bit more of it is like, yes, yes, give me more of that. Absolutely, I already know. And that didn't necessarily need to be there because we already knew, and I was gonna get it anyway. But and then we got the
yeah.
remake, which is like, oh, I don't actually remember much of Pearl and Diamond, so I would be more than happy to jump back in it. It has Torterra, what a unit of a Pokemon. There's no way that I'm not jumping up on that. It's not a Chikorita or anything like that. Um, and then we got the big weird uh, Arceus game, which is like it seems like feudal Japan, even though again there's the video saying it's like it's not really feudal Japan, blah blah blah. It's like okay, like older style game, and oh, that's also not a great way to describe it. It's a game that takes place in a previous time period than what we're used to in Pokemon games.
Yeah, where it seems like the whole technology for Pokeballs is very early on and stuff,
Mhm.
which is really interesting.
It is.
And yeah, I feel like just that alone, they're going to have to sort of move away from the standard. Like the fact that there's only one town means that the game's plot can't just be, oh, go beat all the gyms and then beat the Elite Four,
Yeah.
because there can't really be gyms, can there? If there's only the one town established so far, they had to come up with something else. So
It
it's going to force some innovation on their part, I
which is
guess.
interesting because we have to go back in time to actually get some innovation in a Pokemon game. I
Yeah,
find that kind of funny. But at the same time, I'm excited.
yeah,
Like you saw, actually, even the trainer just roaming around. We obviously had already Pokemon roaming around, and you bumping into them. But it seems like okay, now you actually have to go and be sneaky to capture them. We did see them in.
yeah. And you've got a dodge roll.
Yeah, so
It's going to be
I I,
Dark
I want to
Souls.
see like the parry button too. Like the Pikachu tries to attack you, you parry it, and then you can land a special attack. Oh my gosh, I don't know. It seemed like something new, and that's why I think it's exciting for this particular franchise. But anyway, I think we're way off topic of what we started talking
Yeah.
about, which is essentially the anniversaries. And obviously, Pokemon gave us that, but then Zelda hasn't quite given us anything yet. That doesn't mean that they're not going to, because it's fairly
Yeah.
early on the year. It's only been 2 months.
Yeah, and they kind of treat the anniversaries as a year-long
Yes,
thing, even if the specific date of the anniversary has,
already
I
passed.
forget if it's already
It has
passed or
already
if it,
passed,
yeah,
yes.
gotcha.
And I think people were a bit upset just because they didn't even acknowledge it on a tweet or anything, that it was, oh, it's Zelda's 35th anniversary today. And
Well, if anything, that almost seems suspicious to me, because Zelda is definitely, like, I can see them completely ignoring Metroid's anniversary. Like, that's what they tend to do. Zelda, especially now after Breath of the Wild sold so much, is definitely big enough to warrant an acknowledgement. So the fact that they haven't acknowledged it yet says to me that we're probably getting something later in the year.
I would be surprised if we weren't. Even along the lines of what they did for Mario last year. Obviously, they didn't announce any new huge title. They gave us the 3D remakes and then the little battle royale mode for the original Super Mario Brothers. So even if it
Yeah,
wasn't that huge new game that you were expecting, they gave us a direct specifically to talk about Mario and celebrate the Mario anniversary.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get something
At
for
least
Zelda.
until they took it all away.
Yeah, they're gonna take it all away.
Yeah.
Essentially, but they reiterated that. I don't know if that's how you say it correctly. Sorry for my Spanish accent, but I feel like they even said it this week again that they're at the end of March those games are going away. It's not like we're pulling like, oh, never
Yep.
mind, actually we're gonna keep it. No, they're going away, which is
That's why I refuse to buy it.
yeah, exactly. Now for Zelda again, you mentioned this is what you expect. Do you expect, obviously because they already have Breath of the Wild 2 in place here? Do you expect Breath of the Wild 2 to actually come out this year, Matt?
I am still leaning yes, but I wouldn't say I'm like 100% confident. I just think that the amount of time that's passed, it makes sense, especially if they were working from the same engine. And the fact that we haven't heard anything, I don't think is necessarily a death knell.
Okay.
Because we don't really know anything that's coming in the second half of the year. And it, like recently, especially Nintendo's second halves of the years have tended to be a lot stronger than the first half. The first half is typically weaker for them. So I think we definitely are going to have something big this year in the later half. It won't necessarily be Zelda. I think Zelda makes sense, but it could be, I don't know, Mario Kart would work as well. We know that Pokemon and Splatoon are both next year, so...
Yeah. Well, the remake is this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it clearly seems like the Arceus game is sort of the big upcoming Pokemon for them.
I don't think even next year. I think it's, did they say next year? I just don't.
I think they did.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
I mean, we'll see if it happens, but
yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think there's definitely something coming down the line. What I really hope that doesn't happen though is them rushing Breath of the Wild 2 to get out right now just because it's the anniversary.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
give me the polished experience. I don't think, well, Nintendo actually does a good job of making sure that when their game ship is actually a quality ship. It's not, they're not trying to compromise the quality of the game. But
especially for a game as big as Breath of the Wild 2 is for them, I think for sure they would give it the time it needs.
Yeah. I sure hope so. I'm so excited about it. Just give me the darkness, you know what I mean? The dark feeling again. Give me my Majora's Mask Breath of the Wild, man. And all life will be. I don't know how I was gonna end that sentence. I was just gonna everything good is gonna happen in life. All right. Now, last but not least, there's no topic of conversation. I just want to chat with you, Matt. What have you been up to in the gaming in the past week?
Oh boy, well, I've been playing some Bravely Default 2,
Nice.
the newest RPG out from none other than Square Enix.
Yeah.
The big forefather of RPGs, and more specifically, the kind of Bravely Default Octopath team. I don't know if they have a more specific name, but yeah. Basically the team that tries to make RPGs more in the Square's kind of classic style, while the rest of the company tries to reinvent Final Fantasy a billion times. And
fair. At the same time, so yeah, I heard that they call them the Bravely Octos, by the way, just so you know, the official team name.
Oh yeah. No, it's probably something really bland.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I bet that their name has like a name pending after the
working
after whatever
title.
It's called. Working title.
Nah, that's awesome. I also been playing it. I think you're way further ahead than I am. I literally it is the game that I use to relax myself. It's just it's a game that doesn't require, again, to me, that much attention. There's a lot of RPG mechanics associated with it, but it's just pretty, and it just has a calm term to it. So that's what I've been using and taking my time with it. You are all the way up already into chapter 2. And the reason that we also want to bring this up is because we are going to have our preview, essentially, of Bravely Default 2. Matt is going to be taking point most of it, but since I played this one, I can actually participate. So check that out. This is releasing this week alongside this podcast, both on audio services and YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
On my so just a little bit 2 sentence thing, Matt. So far so good for that game.
Uh, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I was looking for a game like this, maybe because I skipped out on Pokemon, but yeah, it's scratching that RPG itch for me. It's not without problems, but I'm having a good time
It's hitting the
overall.
spot then.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I can talk a bit about the one that I've been playing for. So I've been playing Bravely Default again, but that's my side game. I've been getting a little bit more into Overwatch again, Matt. I don't know if I talked to you about that
yeah.
already. I don't know what it is. It's just something. It's bringing me back. It's just that not even nostalgia, because the game came out in 2016, so I don't even think I can call it nostalgia. But it's just that same feeling, that fun aspect of using my different heroes, using my Tracer, my Genji. Yes, I'm that kind of annoying player, and and just being in that environment again. Obviously, now since I'm playing solo, I don't think anybody of my friends are actually playing Overwatch, and the problem again is with the toxicity of the community when things happen. I'm not playing competitive, but it's fun to get back into it and seeing the many changes that have happened to the heroes themselves and getting back into it. I'm actually even started watching the Overwatch League again, which I found it interesting, an interesting esport, because it's high production value as opposed to some of the things that I seen for like Smash and stuff. But and at the same time, I've also been playing Bloodborne, and that I've been
Yeah.
streaming that for I don't know the past month, just because of how difficult it is for me to actually beat that game. And it's such a. But by the way, for reference, this is my second Souls games I beat and platinum. I always say this, and I always want to bring it up. Beat and platinum Demon Souls on the PlayStation 3. I don't even remember any of it, by the way. It's just like a blur memory of painfulness, things that happened. I just know that I enjoyed it enough to actually platinum it. Uh, but this is obviously a few Souls games ahead, and kind of a different take on the Souls franchise a bit. I'm comparing to Dark Souls, for example, and it's just so it's hard to describe what is so appealing about this game. There's obviously the environmental storytelling. There, don't throw the story at you. I still don't know what the heck is going on. I have some theories in mind as to what is happening, and I think that's what makes it special, because you can kind of come up with your own theories of what the story is like. But it's not the story bits necessarily that make this game appealing. It adds to the overall experience with the game, but it's just the how brutal and engaging the combat could be, the different types of enemies that you face. Not just talking about the final bosses, but the enemies that you encounter just going through the levels themselves, and the amount of progression that you make by dying over and over again when you think it's like, okay, I actually didn't make a progress. The level there is level shortcuts to say, it's like, even though you start from the first path, you unlock the shortcut so you can actually go through that path now. Don't worry, you don't have to suffer through everything over and over again. And just seeing the variety of enemies, the combination of weapons, and just the mystery behind what the heck is actually happening in this world is just very engaging. The final boss battle, I won't spoil anything, but that final boss battle just kicked my behind, Matt, so many different times. It's unbelievable. But the feeling that I got from beating that final boss and beating all the optional bosses, you just feel that it's hard to describe the feeling that you get. You just feel so accomplished, and you feel like, oh, I'm a god gamer, even though so many people have beaten this game too. But it's just good. It's hard, but it's not impossible. And the fact that it makes you feel like you can actually do it and improve your skills as you're going through it. It's a very cool game, and I'm again hooked on the Souls franchise. I really want to go back and play it through Dark Souls and maybe Sekiro later, because they obviously have a few different pieces of gameplay that are different and their stories are different. And I know that this one is a little bit more, it consumes less stamina, and you are able to actually move around a lot quicker than in the Dark Souls. And I want to see how that changes the formula. I don't know what's better yet, since I haven't played those, but so far I am enjoying my experience with Bloodborne quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you haven't, that again, another, it's just going back to my backlog and seeing what else is coming. I think next I'm gonna try out to go through as many Resident Evils as I can before Resident Evil 8 comes out. So we'll see how many I can actually get through. Alright. Man, I think that that's everything that we got for you today. So thanks to everybody who listened to the Chat and Games weekly gaming show. Again, if you want to have your own topics of conversation in here, remember you can email us at itsallfunngamestv@gmail.com, or just join us on the Discord and just join the Chat and Games community right there. It's all in the show notes, by the way. You can listen to this podcast on any podcast platform service. You can do either through your podcast feed or even Spotify now. It's all on Apple, Android, anywhere that you can think of. And also on YouTube. We actually started a separate YouTube channel just to talk all about the gaming discussions. It's all about everything again, game discussion related. So Chat and Games has its own channel. That's where all the podcasts go in, the highlights, the reactions. You will all see it there. As opposed to if you want to see gameplay and everything that we've been doing on the stream, that is all in It's All Fun and Games channel that you are so used to seeing. Other than that, I don't think we got any major things. Just keep an eye out on things. If you want to catch us live while we stream, remember you can do so by going into twitch.tv/itsallfunandgames. And we have a few special things planned out for the future. So keep an eye out on all social media platforms, which are all in the show notes. All right, man. Anything else for the buds this week?
Bye.
That is Chat and Games signing off.